Right, ebuson mu bibia kwa ban fambre 2K ni sem blossom o YouTube so say ebuson afọ yaba as usual ensem ahodo a ekoso Ghana say na de beso ahefo ene etiefo nyina ebuson no kase na ade say info bi aba beto dwa na medi nkan de aka che say ensem ahodo bi abekoso wo ye Ghana ha say no bia no yenso yebebo moden say yebeje yebeboaboa no ye de aba beso mo channel say ebuson ne sent no mensa ka info bi a me ba be drop amount so nsa ka bi na wahu de ekọ no Empesem kasa betin enko nenko video ne enfambra midin e de kwam gentle.
So if you're saying the evidence is replete. Look, you can mention even all the accusations against President Mahama's government, and I can show you with evidence how he frontally fought those issues.
Let's not dwell in the past
and try to deal with it. No, it's very important because you see where you come from. It's important to determine how you move into the future. And that is why oral is very crucial. I wouldn't entertain this conversation that, there's corruption and there's oral, so we should move from that and look at how we are going to prevent. Let's actually talk about what is there right now, because talking about corruption is the most effective, if you want, is it the corruption side, or do you want to call it corruption side? So disinfectant. Disinfectant or insecticide that kills corruption.
All right.
Because if you do not talk about corruption, if you do not expose corruption, corruption thrives. Yes. And so, as part of the oral, one critical element is the exposés and the discussions about the exposés and the individuals involved and discussing the ways around which the corruption even occurred. Then
why don't you want to talk about the prevention of what could be stolen?
Obviously, I will talk about
what
prevention.
Could be looted.
I will talk about prevention, but I must first talk about the current situation. Okay. I can't just jump out of nothing and talk about prevention. Then to prevention. I made the point about President Mahama and how he conducts himself in terms of the fight against corruption for very good reason. And President Mahama, beyond all other things, from the State of the Nation's address and all the engagements that he has had during the swearing in of the ministers, has reiterated that, look, if indeed it is because of the gains that you would have in this government that you are coming to take office, then beware. Because President Mahama will not condone corruption, and he will not clear you. He will not become a clearing agent. And he has made this statement time with that number. And so, as for the opal, as for the opal,
I want you to make that point when
Professor has to be there. Okay. As for the opal, it is going to work. Okay. And as much as possible, we, those in the NDC and those appointees of government, are also aware that, look, President Mahama will not shield us. And so when we are taking steps, we are very careful.
Okay.
So that you do the right thing. And again, before you move, President Mahama has not only spoken about KPIs, he has made a very bold statement about the code of ethics and code of conduct for public officers. And one of the things that the special advisor in charge of governmental affairs is working on strongly is the code of conduct for public officials.
Okay.
How public officials conduct themselves in a humble manner. They don't exude opulence. They conduct themselves in a manner that the state resources are managed efficiently to the use of the state and not for personal aggrandizement. All this come together to consolidate the fight against corruption.
Right.
Because the fight against corruption is not only in instances where you catch somebody who has, done some corrupt acts, stolen some money, but it's also about the conduct of the public officer. Right. The public officer must treat people with respect. He must conduct himself in a manner that is acceptable to society, and so on and so forth. Okay. And so, Alfred, you can be rest assured that President Mahama has also learned a lot of lessons from the past government and when he was in power. And beyond the fact that he was even fighting corruption when he was a president in the past, he has learned all this and he's going to put all together to make sure that Ghana is rid of corruption and our public officers do what is right and go right and do right by the people.
Okay. Well, but Barson, if you could sit up a bit for me, I'm coming to you on this, but this morning, as you always know, are being clothed by Kogra Clothing, the best version of you. Locate them on the Sprinters Road, 18 Junction, opposite the Allied Oil Filling Station. Ground floor, same building with a Ghana-made store. If you want this outfit I'm wearing and many others you've seen me wear every Saturday on Key Point, you can call Kogra Clothing on 0244 238 341. That's 0244 238 341. Or on WhatsApp 0500 9099. Choose Kogra, choose right. But Bansen, so Oral done their preparatory work, but beyond that, what next, really, in the fight against corruption going forward? Not just a focus so much about what has been looted, but a call to prevention as well, because the president himself talks about procurement corruption as one of the ways that he is going to tackle corruption going forward. Expectations? If you can unmute for me, please.
Sorry. Good morning, Alfred. Once again, my expectation going forward in the fight against corruption, I think the panelists have spoken at length. Definitely there's a need to build institutions. That was why the last time I was in your studio with Senior Martin Pebo, I was trying to confirm the legal basis for the activities of ORA, because then we would have to move from personalizing it or politicizing it into an institution where we would have a proper legal framework that will bind present and future governments or the political class or even the public service. And I was of the opinion that we had a Whistleblowers Act that provided a very extensive legal regime to actualize what the ORA committee sought to do or seeks to do. And I'm happy, at least with the submission of the report, the Attorney General says that he's taking steps to refer those matters that he thinks require further investigations. And it doesn't mean that any person who submitted any thing to oral that you've not heard anything about, the door is shut on you. I believe that the legal framework still exists. If you think that somebody has done something that is illegal, you don't have to wait for any political change, as it were, or anything. The institutions are there, they are bound to work, or they are mandated to work. You should go there and lodge the complaint. But beyond all that has been said, I think one thing that we must tend to look at is an issue of national orientation to take away some of the, for lack of a better word, hypocrisy in both our social, economic, and political discourse. Because like all the panelists have said, that we, in terms of human resource, there are few countries in Africa or West Africa, if I will narrow it, that has the level of expertise that the average Ghanaian has in terms of education and knowledge. It's just that we as a people decide when to apply the knowledge we've acquired to the common good and what we have not acquired. I wouldn't say that the institutions of state that we have presently are not enough, or the laws that we have are not enough. Let's take Galamsey, for instance. I know we are talking about corruption, but if we take the various incidents or framework, it will cut across. There are enough laws that will criminalize Galamsey. There are enough laws in Ghana, not that will that criminalizes Galamsey. There are enough institutions of state, either ad hoc or permanent, that have been set up to fight Galamsey. But the change of political power after January 7th has not stopped Galamsey. It means that we, the people, have the foremost responsibility. Government is defined, or democracy is defined as government of the people, by the people, and for the people. Sometimes I think our problem in the fight against corruption and all those things that come with it is that majority of the people tend to leave all the responsibility to the political class. And it makes us hypocrites, because at the end of the day, the political class is chosen from amongst us, and they are the reflection or a reflection of where, as a people, we tend to go. And so irrespective of whether party A or party B is in government, we, the people, must take foremost responsibility to eschew corruption and corrupt practices. There is no politician that walks to the citizen to ask that I want to do this for you, but you must give me this. It includes civil servants, so I'm not limiting it to politicians alone. It includes civil servants. We always go to them and tell them that we want this, because of your position, we would want you to use it in our favor. And so there is always an offer before there's an acceptance. And so if the people continue to say that we want to rely on the political class or the political elite or the people that we think are sitting on the upper echelons of our society to be able to change the narrative from corruption to galamsey to all the things that undermine the development and the progress of the country that we have, then we will be a joke because we will keep changing political power holders. We will keep changing those that we think are responsible for our where we are without putting the blame or taking responsibility by ourselves. And it is good that your platform and other platforms keep harnessing these facts. I think that institutions of state that such as the National Commission for Civic Education is one is, and we used to have, okay, we still have I think the information something. There's a government agency that those days they used to go around with vans to speak about civic responsibility and obligation.
Information services, information ISD, and then apart from ISD, there's NCC, ISD,
Yes. How much of the budget is allocated to such state institutions that have been set up by various laws on even the constitution in the context of the National Commission for Civic Education to ensure that the average Ghanaian understands his role, his responsibility, and his obligation, right from when people are gaining admission to secondary schools. They are exposed to corruption because sometimes you would have to manipulate the system, know who you know, to be able to have access to secondary school. So we get out of these basic education levels thinking that it is a cool thing to pull strings to achieve something that ordinarily you do not deserve. And if we do not have these institutions of state getting the necessary attention and budgetary allocation, we'll be going around in circle, pointing one finger to politicians and the political elite, and the four fingers will remain pointing at us. We are responsible, as when I say we, the majority of us that do not form the civil society elite or the political elite, we are responsible for where we are. And we cannot fight corruption if we leave the responsibility solely to politicians and the heads of civil society.
And certainly you talk about not living like ostriches, just approaching the issues as they are. And Professor Stephen, when Dr. Tukono was talking, you say you put him at your back. When what happens? Why exactly do you
what
think
I'm saying is this.
There's no trust in...
No. It has not to do at all.
Okay.
Fighting corruption is so important that anybody who will succeed, even though I'm an old man, I will do push-up and I will physically put him at my back to show, because
you need to hit the gym.
Because
if President Mahama succeeds in fighting corruption, you will carry him at your back.
Oh, I put it as I'm going to start my push-up, then I will really go to and put John at my back and carry him, because it is the bane of our underdevelopment and therefore underperformance. And let me say that actually there are several things, the studies show it, and I've spent a lot of time because of my work with the UN and my own studies, that first of all, you should have systems that are relatively not complicated. Sure, you don't have to go through many systems. For example, I once studied the